So the next topic that I am going to start is material costing. So what is material costing is all about? So material costing is nothing but, in general meaning, uh, it is all expenses used in the production process. And as a commercial meaning, material costing means all expenses used in sales process. That is the cost of sales. Suppose if I consider one example, so suppose our company bought goods from Mumbai at 20,000 rupees and even bring the goods to Karnataka, the transfer expenses were paid 5,000 rupees. So the total cost of goods has become 25,000 rupees. So as you can see in the diagram, the purchase cost of goods is 20,000 rupees, plus it includes the transport cost, which is 5,000 rupees. So the total cost of the goods becomes 25,000 rupees. So we have 6 types of material costing method, and the first method is average of a hand, the second is average of input, then FIFO, LIFO, then periodic average, and the final is physical cost. So I'm going to explain one by one. So let's start with average of a hand method. So this method of cost calculation takes into account the inputs and outputs. So negative transaction is caused stock calculation through this method. So if I consider one example, suppose we have two columns, inputs and outputs. The input consists of purchase details and the output consists of sales details. So now, suppose in 1st of Jan, I purchased 10 units of materials with unit price of 100 rupees. And on March 1st, I purchased 10 materials with unit price of 200 rupees. Now the average cost, unit cost becomes 10 into 200 plus 10 into 100 by the total quantity of material, that is 20, equal to 150. So this is the unit cost. This becomes the 150 becomes the unit cost for each material. Now I sell only 8 units of the 20 units. Among the 20 units, I sell only 8 units. So I sell that 8 units. Suppose I sell it, each unit price will be 250 rupees. So its unit cost, as it is 150 rupees and selling price is 250 rupees, so profit will be 100 rupees. Now I left with 12 materials, as I sold 8 units, so the remaining materials will be 12. So that 12 will become then unit cost of the 12 material is to 150 rupees. Then suppose 1st of May I again purchase the 10 more materials with unit price of 300 rupees. And what will be the average then? Then it will be 12 into 150 plus 10 into 300 divided by the total quantity of materials, that is 22. Then the average will be 218,8 rupees. Now suppose on 1st of June I sell 4 units and 1st of July I sell 7 units. Then again my remaining quantity becomes 11 units. So that the average unit cost will get included with that 11 units. So suppose on 1st of August I again purchase 10 more materials with unit price of 400 rupees. So what will be the average then? It will be 304,76. Then again 1st of September I sell 6 units. So then the inventory remaining quantity is 15 now. So as it is before it was 21, then I sold 6 units, so it becomes 15. So the inventory cost becomes 15 into 304,76, which is the average unit cost for each material, equal to 4571,43 Indian rupees. Now the next method, that is average on input method. So in this method we look at the transaction of the input only and does not take into account the final output. So this is not affected by the movement of negative transaction. So let me consider one example that you can see that in inputs we first calculate average of we consider all the items, then calculate the whole average, then I finally calculate the inventory cost. As you can see in the input, on 1st of June I purchased the 10 materials with the unit price of 100 rupees, and on 1st of March I purchased 10 more materials with unit price of 200 rupees. So what will be the average? It becomes 150 rupees. So suppose I sell on 1st of April 8 units of material and with the average unit price of 150 rupees. So keep it on hold, and then again on 1st of May, suppose I purchase 10 more units of materials with unit price of 300 rupees. And what will be the total average then? Then I do the average of all whole quantity of materials, that is 10 into 100 plus 10 into 200 plus 10 into 300, that is the total quantity of divided by total quantity of material, that is 300, so the average will be 200. Again on 1st of June, suppose I sold 4 units with some unit price, and 1st of July I sold 7 units, so what will be the average unit cost then? It will be 200 Indian rupees. So again the 1st of August I again purchased 10 more materials with unit price of 400 rupees. So again the total average becomes 250 rupees, and I sold on 1st of September 6 units of material. So it becomes 250 rupees unit cost, average unit cost. So my inventory left with, before that I purchased 40 units of materials and I sold 25 units. So the remaining inventory quantity is 15. So the inventory cost becomes 15 into the total average unit price, that is 250, average unit cost, that is 250. So 15 into 250 equal to 3750 Indian rupees. So like this the second costing method is calculated. Now the third costing method, that is the FIFO method. So in this method the material that input first will be output first necessarily. According to this method, when the process output is directly linked with the first invoice. So when calculating the cost of the next input operation, next out operation, the amount remaining from the earlier movement output is taken into account. So the negative transaction is caused stop calculation in this method. Now let me consider one example. You can see in the input on 1st of Jan I purchased 10 materials, 10 unit of materials with unit price of 100 rupees, and 1st of March I purchased 10 more materials with unit price of 200 rupees. Now as it is a FIFO method, so the first input will come to the calculation part. So the first input, that is the 10 material which I purchased on 1st Jan with unit price of 100 rupees. Now suppose on 1st of April I sold 8 units. So I took that 8 units from that first input, that is 10 unit with unit price of 100. So that 8 unit cost will be 100 rupees. Now again suppose on 1st June I sold 4 units. I have to sell 4 units. Now what will be its unit cost? The unit cost becomes, so the remaining 2 units that is left for that 100 rupee input, that 2 units plus the 2 units from the next input, that is 200 rupee input. So then it will be get average with 2 into 100 plus 2 into 200 divided by the 4. So the average unit cost becomes 150 rupees. So for these 4 items, 4 units, the average cost will be 150 rupees. Now again, suppose on 1st July I have to sell 7 units, then the remaining from remaining 8 units of March materials, we have to select 7 units, and its unit cost becomes 200 rupees, average unit cost becomes 200 rupees, and the remaining inventory material is 1. So the inventory cost becomes 1 into the final average unit cost, that is 200 rupees, equal to 200 Indian rupees. And this is FIFO, and the next is LIFO method. The LIFO cost method is calculating the cost depending on the last input cost. So the last input last input will be the first output. So here also the negative transaction is caused wrong calculation in this method. So in FIFO we take the first input, and here In LIFO we have to take the last input, which will be the first output. Now suppose you can see in 1st of Jan I purchased 11 units of materials with unit price of 100 rupees, and 1st of March I again purchased 10 units of material with 200 unit price. Now as the second one will be the first output, so suppose in 1st of April I have to sell 2 units, so I will take 2 units from that 10 units of 1st March material, purchase material, so the average unit cost becomes 200 rupees. Output cost becomes 200 rupees. Now it has 8 units left in second input. Then suppose in 1st of June I require 4 units to be sold, so that 4 units I have to take from that 8 inputs with a unit price, average unit cost of 200 rupees. Now again on 1st of July I need to sell 7 units, so that remaining 4 units of the second input and the 3 units from the first input we have to take, so it average will becomes 4 into, as you can see, it average will becomes 4 into 200 plus 3 into 100 divided by 7 equal to 15714 Indian rupees. So on 1st of August, suppose I have purchased 10 units with unit price of 100, with unit price of 500 rupees. So my remaining inventory becomes 8 plus 10, that is 18 units. So, and the final average unit cost is becomes 8 into 100, that is the remaining items left in the first input, plus 10 into the newly purchased items into 500, equal to total inventory cost is 5800 Indian rupees. So this is LIFO costing methods. And the next costing method, that is the periodic costing method. So this method is used according to the method of calculating the cost by average on hands between 2 dates. So between 2 dates I will calculate this costing method using the average on hand method. Then the cost with the balance will transfer to the next period, and so on. So it will then transfer to next period, and then the calculation will be again between 2 dates by using the average on hand method. So again the negative transaction is cause stop calculation in this method. Now for example, suppose I purchase on 1st of Jan 10 materials with 100 unit price, and 1st of March I purchase 10 materials with 200 unit price. So now between these 2 dates my average on hands calculation I have to do. So it will, the average becomes 150 rupees for 20 materials unit. Now 1st of April, suppose I have to sell 8 unit, and the remaining quantity becomes 12 with unit price unit cost of 150 rupees. Now my period closed on 2nd of April. Then suppose on 1st of May I have purchased another 10 materials with 300 unit price, and I have already 12 left with 150 rupees. Then the total average becomes for 22 items is 218,18 Indian rupees. Then suppose 1st of June I have to sell 4 units, and 1st of July I have to sell 5 units. Then the unit price becomes average unit cost for output becomes 21818 Indian rupees. Now again 2nd of July that period closed, and again the remaining inventory becomes, as I already sold 9 units, so I have 22, so 22 minus 9, that is 13 unit I have left in my inventory, so whose cost becomes 13 into the average unit cost, final average unit cost, that is 21818, it becomes 283634 Indian rupees. Next is costing method is physical cost method. So it depends on materials card, serial or lot number or location tracking. To calculate the cost depends upon the movement of the serial or lot numbers. Output cost takes its value from inputs regardless the transaction date. So here it is not depend on the transaction, input is not depend on the transaction date. It depends on the either material card serial number or lot number or location tracking number. So if you see this method and you did not use the serial number in this transaction, the then the system depends on FIFO method in cost calculation. If you're not using the serial method, serial number in the transaction, then the system automatically depends on the FIFO method for cost calculation. Now, suppose for example, we have lot A in the date 1st of January. I have 10 materials. I purchased 10 materials with unit price of 100, and for lot B, and on 1st of March I purchased 10 units of materials with 200 unit price. Now, in the output, suppose on 1st of April I have to sell 7 units from lot B. Then that lot B, the 7 units will be deducted from the 10 units in lot B with a unit cost of 200 INR, average unit cost of 200 INR Indian rupees. Now the remaining will be 10 in lot B. Now again in 1st of June, suppose I have to sell 6 units, then the average becomes, so I have to the 6 units will take 1 from lot B and 5 units from lot A. Then the average becomes, you can see 116,66 Indian rupees. So the inventory left with the 5 is left in lot A and 2 is left in lot B. So it becomes 7 units. So the inventory cost becomes 5 into 100 plus 2 into 200 equal to 900 Indian rupees. So these are the 6 methods that I have explained. Now I show you manually how it works in j-guar client application. So let me open the j-guar client. So you can see, so first of all I have to create one material. In the material management definition, materials, suppose I am creating one material, I am creating commercial good. Now you can see the material definition page is open. So suppose I am creating one material with name as material 1, and here the options you have to select. There is a costing method option. Here you can see all the 6 method is showing here. So first of all I am selecting, for example, I am selecting average on hand method. Here also IFRS cost method you can also select here. So I am selecting the costing method 1 as average of on hand method. So now I save the material with the name as material 1. Now I have to create one purchase invoice for purchasing the material. As I purchase the material, so I have to define a supplier. So you can see a supplier is already defined. So let me again define a supplier. So the supplier page is open. Here I have to define one supplier. So I defined a new supplier. So just you can define the org unit also. So I'm selecting the center org unit. So that's it. So I'm saved that supplier. So the newly created supplier is saved. Now you can check the status as well, it is inactive or not. So the supplier's status is in active state. Now the supplier is created, so I have to create one purchase invoice. So then purchase management transaction, then purchase invoice. So the purchase invoice page is open. Now here I have to create a purchase invoice by clicking on purchase invoice. Then here the date you have to set, in which date you have to create the purchase invoice, in which date you did the purchase. And suppose I did purchase today with the 10 materials, so I have to select the org unit first. So org unit I am selecting center, then the warehouse I am selecting center, then department also. Suppose I am selecting center, and the ERAP, here we have to select the supplier who is supplying the material, which purchases the material and going to sell. There is a supplier details we are selecting. Now here you have to select the material, which material I purchased. Suppose I purchased the material with name as material 1. Now I purchased, as I show you in the example, I purchased 10 quantity of material with unit price of 100. Okay, now I just save this purchase invoice. Again, this is in draft mode, so I make it change it to approved status, then only it will work. So click on OK. So the status of this invoice is changed to approved. Now again I have to create one purchase invoice. So again, suppose I purchased on the next day. I purchased, if I click on calendar, suppose on 19th of June I purchased, click on OK, and it is asking that your slip date will change. Then I click on 19th. I purchased another 10 materials with unit price of 200. So I'm selecting the organization unit as center, warehouse as center, department also center. Then ERAP will be the supplier, same supplier I'm selecting. So here in material I have to select the same material. So I select as I define the material with the costing method, type as average on hand. So you can see how it will get the costing will get calculated. So the material now for this material the supplier again purchased 10 more materials to, with unit price of 200 now. Now if I save it on next day they purchased. So if I save it, it is in draft mode. Right click on that, change status, change the status to approved status. Now I have two purchase invoice, one for 10 materials, 10 units of materials with unit price of 100, and second one is 10 units of materials with unit price of 200. So I have two inputs. Now I have to create the output, that is the sales invoice. So go to sales management, then transactions, then sales invoice. So here I have to create a wholesale invoice. Then so first of all you have to select that I am going to invoice and means I am going to sell on 20th of June. Now so it will say that the slip date is changed and dispatch or receipt date will be changed. So click on OK. So again the document date I also changed to 20. Now I'm selecting the organization unit as the same organization unit. You can transfer the organization unit or warehouse transfer of the same costing method or same cost unit cost price by the material slips, warehouse transfer slips in the material management module you have. So you can do to transfer the same unit cost to the different warehouse as well. You can transfer. So I'm selecting the department also as center, and I'm selecting the ERAP with the customer I already created. So I'm selling this material to the customer new. Now I'm selecting the code of that material. So the material is material 1. So now suppose I'm selling 8 quantity with a unit price of 250. Suppose I'm selling the unit price of 250 rupees. Here you can see the total amount is showing 2000. The net amount is 2000 also. So now click on save. So that output part is also done. So change the status of this invoice, wholesale invoice, as an approved state. So click on OK. So now the status changed to approved. So then click close, and we have to start the costing calculations. by go to material management, then operations, then costings. So here you can select the material type as well, which material type you are going to do the costing. As I am doing the commercial good, so I am not selecting here. You can select the material code, as well as you can select the price index, the cost type which you are doing the costing, everything. So by default it is already selected, so I am not doing any changes. Just I click on apply, so the costing calculation will get successfully started. You can check the status in the operations, then click on operations. You can see it is completed. The operation is completed, costing calculation. Now let's go to first to purchase management. Let's see what the cost value is, unit cost value is added. Go to transactions, purchase invoice. I have created two purchase invoice on 18th and 19th. Let's see. If I click on view, you can see the newly unit cost is added here. So you can see 100 is unit cost is added for this material. And again on 19th, if you click, you can see 200 unit cost is added for this 10 quantity of material. Now let me open the sales invoice in sales management. So what will be the unit cost? You can see here. So the date I did on 20 of June. So now, so here you can see the unit cost is 150 rupees. As I discussed you that for average of hands, the first unit cost becomes 150 rupees if I selling 8 units, and it will becomes average. So now, so the remaining I have 20 units whose unit cost is 150 rupees. So let's see, if I suppose if I purchase 10 more materials with unit price 300, then what will be the unit cost becomes. Now let's go to purchase invoice again. Transactions, purchase invoice. Click new purchase invoice. As I created a invoice, wholesale invoice on 20th of June. So now suppose on 21st I have purchased 10 more materials with unit price of 100. So after selecting the org unit, warehouse and departments, then ARAP will be the supplier details. There is supplier new. Now suppose the same material I am again purchased with different unit price of 300 rupees. If I click on save, and I save it, I change the status of it as draft to approved state. So as per the example I explained that I have purchased again 10 material of 300 unit price, and the remaining becomes 212, which unit price is 150 rupees. So now the average unit cost becomes should be 21818. So suppose on next day I have to sell 4 units of material. So let's see what will happen. So again go to sales management, sales invoice, transactions, then sales invoice. Suppose I have to create the wholesale invoice on next day, that is 22nd of June. So selecting the date here, 22nd of June, and then Selecting the document date also same as the date of sale, and selecting the org unit, center, warehouse as center, department also center. Then ERAP should be the customer whom I am going to sell as a supplier. Now in the material I have to select the same material with name as material 1. So here I am selling suppose 4 units with a unit price of 300, and suppose I am again selling another 7 materials. Then click on insert. You will able to insert another row here. So I am again selling the same material with unit price. So on the same day I am selling the same materials of 7 with unit quantity 7 with unit price of 350 rupees. So here one thing is there. Here you can also, if you want, you can add the cost value directly here, unit cost value. You can select which costing methods you want to select the price, unit price of the quantity. If I select average on hands here, I click on apply, then the last average unit cost value will get added in the unit price for this metric. But I don't want I want to add my own sale price. So let me see what will happen. So if I click on save and change the status from draft to approved status, click on OK. It's changed to approved state. Now again start the costing operation by going to material management operation, then the calculation. If I click on apply, the calculation, costing calculation will get started. So it will get started. You can see in the operation, click on operation. You can see the newly created operation will get completed with 100%. And now if I open the sales management and go to transactions, then sales invoice. If I open the newly created sales invoice, 22nd of June, if you see the unit cost will change to, you can see the unit cost is changed to 218.18. So as per the example I explained, so it becomes similar to this amount. So like this, all other costing methods, using all other costing methods, the unit cost for each material will get calculated. So this is all about costing, material costing methodology. Now I am explain another topic, that is cost distribution slip. So how cost distribution will happen, I will explain. So now first let me create another material first. So you can see, suppose for example I purchased one material directly imported from other country, and for this a custom amount will get added. Suppose the cost of the material is 1000, and the custom cost becomes 150 rupees. So the total cost of the material becomes 1150 rupees for 10 materials. Suppose I purchase 10 materials, so each unit cost becomes 115 rupees. So how we can distribute this custom service cost to the material cost? How we can adjust? So the steps to do this, I will explain it. So let me first create one material. Suppose I purchased one raw material and give a name as raw material. I am set the costing method as average of a hand, and click on save. So the material will get defined. Now I have to create the purchase invoice for this material. Now let's go to purchasing management, transactions, purchase invoice. Then I have to create one purchase invoice. Click on purchase invoice. So here, suppose I purchase the material for the organization unit. I selected here center. Warehouse I am selecting here also center, and department also I am selecting the center. Now the ERP will be the supplier who is purchasing that material. So that is the supplier new. So again in the code I have to select the material which I have purchased. Suppose I purchase the raw material. So select here, and I purchase a quantity of 10 units with a unit price of suppose 100. So the total unit unit price becomes 1000. So unit cost is 100. Now, so you can see the total amount is 1000. Now click on save. Let the change the status to approved. Click on OK. So the status is changed to approved for this purchase invoice of a material. Now I have to create a service that I have imported that material from other countries. So including the purchase price, I have to pay the customs. I already paid the customs amount, as also I have to include the custom amounts with the purchase amount, to which will be the with the total material cost becomes the material cost becomes the total purchase amount with the custom amount. So how we can define? So let's go to definition, purchase amount, purchase management definition, then services. Click on services. So where you can define the what services cost, services tax or customs you have to pay. So you can define here, as I paid a custom, so I define the customs, and here you have to one thing you have to define here, there is a distribution type. For which distribution type you have to pay the custom. So here you can see the material price for material quantity, weight, volume, rate, amount, for import value. So if I am selecting material distribution type as material price, like for each material price, for each unit price of material, that custom value will get distributed. Now in the details also you have to select that it will affect the cost of the total material as well. So these two options you have to define here. Now click on save. So the customs service will get added. Now we have to create a service purchase invoice for that service custom. So let's go to transactions, then purchase invoice. Then here in the new we have to select the service purchase invoice. Then suppose on next day, so on the same day I am doing this. So we have to first select the organization unit, then I have to select the departments. So the ERP for this will be the supplier itself, who is purchasing the product and who paid the customs to the paid the customs for purchasing the product from the outside company, other company. So you have to so you have to mention the supply details. Now here I have to define the which service cost I have to pay. So the customs I am selecting here. The quantity I paid, there is one quantity, and the value I paid is 150 rupees as a custom duty for that material to get imported. Now click on save. So it is in draft state. So change the status to approved. Click on OK. So now the purchase invoice for the material and the service purchase invoice for the customs is defined. Now what we have to do, we have to go to cost distribution slips. So go to material management, then operations, then transactions, then transaction. Within transaction we have cost distribution slip. Click on that. So here in this slip we have to define which service, for which service I paid service cost, and for which materials I paid that. So in cost distribution slip, we have to define the service details and also the material details, for which material I have paid the service cost. Now here click on new. So here you can see we have to select first the organization unit, for which organization unit I purchased that material and for which department. Center. Now again the main chart of accounts you have to select, so that here you have options of opening, collection, payment, daily and journal. So I am selecting the daily and or journal main charts of account. So you have two tables you can see. So here first table I have to select the service details. So here the service purchase invoice select slip type I have to select here, then click on next. So here you can see the customs, then select this. So the details is populated here in the table, and in the bottom table, next table you have to select for which material you have paid this service cost. So click on next. You can see that for this raw material I purchased and I paid the custom duty for this raw material. Now here in the upper table you can see the distribution type you can select here. So I paid for material price, the cost will be distributed for material price, and you can see the total amount to be distributed is 150 rupees. And if I go below, you can see the unit price of the 10 quantity of material, that is 100, and the amount to be distributed is 0. So I have to distribute the amounts. Then click here, then update total to be distributed. You can see 150 rupees will get distributed for this 100 unit price. Now click on save. So it is saved. The cost distribution slip gets saved. Now in material management, go to operation, go to costing. We have to start the cost calculation. Based on that, the value will get added in the unit cost field. Now let's go to purchase management transaction, purchase invoice. You can see the changes. So the purchase invoice I have created this on 18th. Click on view. So here you can see the unit price is 100 and unit cost becomes 115. So that 15 rupees for each unit, each material, I have to pay the custom duty. So that cost is also included with the unit cost, get included with unit cost. So the total unit cost becomes 115. So like this, the distribution of taxes, different taxes and other other prices you can include using the cost distribution slip. And this is all about material costing. Thank you.